Hey, Genius Leaders. I am here with a solo episode today about something that I have noticed we're doing a lot with my clients and something that empowers them a lot. So I want to bring this mind shift to you and also a bit of a practical advice of how to use that mind shift in your life. So we'll be talking about what I call transferable skills for the sake of this podcast. And I just try to come up with some term which is used already, but here it might be a bit of a different context for it. But what I mean about the transferable skills or also mindsets sometimes is that something that we already know how to do or some mindset that we already have mastered. And how can we apply that in a different context, in different area of our life, in a different role of ours, etc. So I'll explain a bit more as we go because I've picked up four examples from different clients of mine. So how did that work for us to work on that, transferring the skills and the mindsets from one context to the other, etc. And hopefully they will inspire you to reflect on your in your life. Where are you potentially creating more struggle for yourself than necessary? Because that's exactly what we're seeing with my clients. When you actually already have the skills and the knowledge to apply to this situation, you just didn't think that, okay, this actually can be applied, that you know the drill or you have the skill, etc., and actually making the life much easier for yourself by doing so. So let's dive into that. And as I mentioned, I will give you four different examples of different situations where we worked on that with my clients. And I tried to pick the contexts that were different. So we'll see something that is transferred from professional life into personal life, and both the skills that are already good, but also the patterns that sometimes are less healthy patterns of ours that can be transferred as well between different roles of ours. So how do we deal with that? And I hope you get inspired and you'll take action based on this and make your life much easier and more joyful as a result of this episode. So let's dive in. So first is the freshest in my memory, first example, and that is with a client with whom we worked a lot on so that was, I'll say a she, right? So how this client, how she could integrate more self-care into her life. So she should run a business. She has a busy life at home with two teenagers, a spouse, um, dog, and a lot of things that are happening and moving pieces that need to align somehow. And she would always end up on the lowest or at the bottom of her priority list herself. And that means the training, her long walks in nature with her dog that really recharge her, get her inspired for the ideas for the business, etc. So we wanted to find a way for her to implement that and integrate it in her life, that it becomes a more natural way of thinking for her, that, okay, I am important in my life and I need to prioritize myself so that I show up in all those roles of mine in a successful but also sustainable way. And I started suggesting her to work with that on her calendar. And she went, "Oh, yeah, whatever lands on my calendar happens. I'm so good at following that. So when I prioritize things, they get on my calendar and I make them happen." So then we had a skill that she already had. She already used her calendar as the prioritization tool and productivity tool in her professional life. So she had the drill, she knew how to work with that, she knew how to operate the calendar so that it becomes a helpful tool. But it never occurred to her that she can do the same with her personal life and more specifically the self-care, right? So maybe her calendar would reflect, okay, I need to bring this kid of mine to this activity, etc., but not the like individual personal life activities. So here it was very easy. I was like, okay, then you start putting, when you plan your day, you first put the stuff that is personal, individual personal activities of yours, and then the rest builds the rest of the calendar. So it was a super easy shift for her. And when we talk about it, it's almost funny how it never occurred to her that she can do that she can use what helps her so much in her professional life to be successful, to apply that to the personal life of hers, to be successful with that in a sustainable way so that she feels happy and she doesn't get too drained. So that was an easy shift, but sometimes it doesn't have to be complicated to be brilliant and to be more very effective. So here, the is an example of something that you're doing already that can easily be applied to the other thing. The same could be, for example, the project management tools, productivity tools that you're using, some rituals that you have at work for example, an effective teamwork, but you're not doing the same with your family. So maybe suggesting that, okay, doing a retrospective meeting in the family on a Sunday, for example. How did our week go? Or in your marriage, just with your spouse, not involving the kids, depending on the age of the kids, etc. But that's, for example, something we do with my husband, right? We do 4 different categories, and we go through our week. How has it been? What's up for you next week? How can we accommodate for each other's schedules, priorities, etc. So that's the thing that we may be doing a lot in the professional life in our work team, and we see how effective it makes us or how good it is for our collaboration and communication. But then maybe we're not doing that in our family, and it's something that is very easy to apply. We just suggest it, we maybe schedule it on our calendar because that makes it happen, etc. And then we just do that. As I said, project management tools. If you're using Trello, Asana, Monday.com, whatever it is in your professional life, why don't you do that with your within your family as well? Hema is the app for household operations and project management. I've had the CEO and co-founder of that on my podcast, Alma, and I'll put the link of that to the show notes so that you can also use that. So it's not necessarily that it has to be the same tool that you use for professional, because that could help, or kind of help in a bad way, you to start thinking about work when you're doing the private project management. So maybe doing the different tools, but applying the same principles of how you're using those tools can be a helpful thing. So for example, if you're used to using Trello for work, which is the example for me, with my team, I'm using Trello. For my personal projects, we're using Asana with my husband. And I know the drills, I know how to use that, but at the same time, I'm not going into the same productivity tool when we're talking about moving to moving countries or getting a kid, which were a couple of projects we had in Asana with my husband. So I don't start thinking about my work when I go into the productivity tool to work on those tasks, the personal tasks of mine. So maybe that's why separating and using Hema, which actually not only is the productivity tool, but it really learns from you how you're doing operating your household, and then helps you automating planning of it and managing it. So that could be a good way of doing it. But then if you have the habit of using the productivity tool in work, it might be super easy to implement that in your personal life, whether it's alone or in collaboration with your quote unquote personal team, which is your family, your spouse, whatever it is. So that's the first example, when it's a very easy thing that sometimes doesn't come to our mind, but when we're using something, it works for us, and we can apply that to the other context, other role of ours super easily. Another example, there I'll go from professional again to the personal, but a bit on a different level. So this is more about the soft skill. And here I took a client who's a business owner, very successful with his business in his niche, top of in his field, in his country. And he, like one of the things why he's so good is because he's really good at listening to the clients, identifying their needs, and addressing those needs with his services. So he builds a perfect match, and then another big part is that he delivers perfectly, flawlessly, on time, within scope, good quality. People are happy years after. So that's the second part. But if we take the first part, he's super good at having the patience to listen, to read between the lines, and then connect the dots between what he has listened or like heard and read between the lines, and connecting that to what he can provide as a value. So it becomes a no big deal for people to say yes, and he actually has a wait list often for his services, and his team is always busy. In the personal life, however, he doesn't have the same with his spouse. So, or didn't. So there would be a situation or a relationship in which he would be super impatient. He would put the words into his wife's mouth, so to say. He would not bother to look into like, what does she mean when she says this? What is her need? How can I actually fulfill that need? It was a completely different situation, a completely different person. So we started working on that and playing a bit with this role of, okay, if you come as a business owner and you listen to a client, what are you doing there? How are you thinking? What is your philosophy? What are the tricks? What are the tips that you are having for yourself, having built a successful business over a couple of decades? And what of that can be applicable in your conversations with your wife? So if you think about that, okay, I'm here to provide value, but also get something out of it, because that's what you do with your services. You're providing value and you're getting money of it, and you're getting good testimonial, reputation, etc. So if you apply the same kind of goals to your conversations with your wife, how can I create a win-win here? And for that, how can I listen to her in a different way, read between the lines, and understand, okay, I need to connect the dots. I need to sell on some idea so that it becomes a no biggie to actually commit to that. And again, it might sound like a bit of a manipulation, but that's what we do. As long as we really look for a win-win kind of manipulation and translating and connecting the dots so that everyone wins from the situation as a result of this quote unquote manipulation, then I don't say anything bad about that. It's the whole life is about influencing other people, influencing ourselves, getting negotiating with each other, etc. So we need to learn how to do that in a healthy way, right? So that is another example of how you can apply the skills or the mindsets that you already have in a professional life into a personal life. If you're struggling with some kind of relationship, think about like, okay, how do I deal? Like, what are the relationships where I don't struggle? What are the contexts? What are my roles where I don't have those communication issues? What am I doing differently here and there? What are the gaps? Can I translate what I do well there into this context, into this role of mine? So once you start operating with those terms, it becomes much easier to connect the dots and bring that professional, your strength of yours into your personal life, for example. And it could be the same the other way around, right? If you are, for example, super good at negotiating with the kids and getting them to do what you want, but you somehow don't manage to do that in your business conversations. So with your prospects, potential clients, you don't manage to close the deal, you don't manage to negotiate the terms that you are happy with. Think about like, okay, what do I manage to do with my kids that can be applicable here and I can transfer here and apply the same skills, the same phrases maybe that I use, the same philosophy, the same attitudes. Maybe it's the same rituals that I prep myself with. Before going to conversation with my kid, I do this and this and this for myself to prime myself, to be able to open, to be able to listen to them, to be open to hear what they need, so that I can connect that to what I want. So if you have some ways to prime yourself for those conversations, can you apply similar ways and create similar rituals to prime yourself before the going into a sales conversation with a prospect? So again, this is the way how we can do it both ways, from personal to professional and vice versa. Third example I want to give is about the discipline. So I had a client who was super good at his training. So he would build a program for himself, set some ambitious wellness goals. Golf? What is going on? Wellness goals. And he would stick to his plan. He would go with it. Of course, sometimes something would happen, kid sick, a job trip that messes up the routine, but he would always find a way to adjust his plan to get back on track as soon as possible, to balance out whatever he has missed, etc. At work, though, he would struggle with having the same discipline with some of his projects, some of his tasks and responsibilities within his role in his organization. So we started looking at, okay, what is the break, like, what is the point where it breaks for you in the professional life? Was it attitude? Was it the skills that, was it the confidence? Was it the environment? Was it the collaborations, etc., etc., etc.? So I identified that for him, it was the environment and it was the collaboration part. Because in his training, he actually would sometimes hire a coach who helped him build the program or help him acquire new skills that help him to elevate his wellness to the next level or get closer to his next health goal. So he would hire the support system, but also the context was important for him. So how he sets up his environment, how he makes it easy for himself to go and train, etc. And that was lacking in the professional environment. So it was about the change. They moved the offices, and he hasn't established good routines with the new office of his company. He worked from home quite often, or had to do stuff, office stuff while traveling for client meetings and prospect meetings. So he didn't have the same rituals and routines about like, okay, this environment means that I'm working, or these artifacts, these physical things around me mean that I'm getting into work mode. And that was messing up with his head. He would get easily distracted, etc. And then he, because of also some changes within the organization, was not having the good is like established support system and support team of collaborators within his work. So the processes were breaking down. Whenever he would need help, he would be like, "Oh, okay, I need to reach out that person. I don't know that person well. I don't have a good relationship with them, like as in close relationships. So I don't know. I know how to reach out to them, etc." That's why it became a bit too big of a deal to reach out to the person. So the person, like my client, would drop that task, do something else that felt easier. So once we established that, we're like, okay, so what do you do with those things in your sports journey? I hire a coach and I create the environment in which it's easy for me to think, okay, now it's time to train. And it doesn't become a negotiation with myself. So we started applying the same in his environment. So he had a conversation with his manager about how to establish better conversations and collaboration with those team members on whom he depended with his tasks. He built better relationships with them through some active choices, so like scheduling some lunches and meetings, etc. And we also started establishing the routine, like, okay, what is your strategy for when you're traveling? What can help you get in the productive mode with office tasks? Okay, in this new office, what do you need to do to get to those routines, to feel like, okay, I know that this place means this kind of task for me, and this place means that kind of task. So we worked through those things with him, and it helped him to establish those routines that really became the mode became more automatic. So he would produce the results because he was in the right environment with the right support system. So here's an example again of using something that is our strength in the personal life, something that we enjoy, that we have the drill, so to say, and we can apply it for the professional life. The fourth example is actually a bit of a different one. So here it's about sometimes we have like the previous three were about something that we're already doing well, that we transfer or translate into a new environment, new context of ours. This one is about something that we do less well for ourselves, so some unhealthy pattern that manifests itself in different ways in different areas of our life. And that's also something that is a common theme for a lot of my clients. When, for example, one client would have a lot of drama king in him. So we kind of joke about that. Like, okay, so where's the drama king here? So we knew that he would be seeking drama, and there were some patterns in that why that was happening for him, and how he would be manifesting some drama in his professional life. So we started working with him in the professional life. So we're talking about those things, how he is creating drama in his own business, how he is making things harder for himself than needed, how he is misinterpreting things just to create drama when there is no really foundation for that or reason for that. So we worked on those things. We created a process. We had those names. As I said, we used a bit of humor, like, okay, this is the drama king. Do we really need him here? Should we kick him out? Blah, blah, blah. So we had our vocabulary, shared vocabulary. We had our process, how to deal with that. So it got easier and quicker for him to identify, okay, I am in this pattern right now. My drama king is performing right now, is acting. So he knew the drill, and it got easier for him to really handle the situation. So if in the beginning it would be that he would come to me in a session, he would be describing the situation, and I had to explain to him, like, okay, do you see the pattern? This is what happens right now. It is happening right now, or this is what happened in this previous week. And then we would work on it, and he would take those homework tasks and go and implement them to really deal with that. Then it started getting quicker. So within the week between our sessions, he would have the situation, he would identify the pattern, and he knew what to do. So it would be quick. So he would come to me and just kind of report, quote unquote, that, okay, this has happened. I figured that out. This is what I did, and this is the result. So it was getting easier for him to identify those things in the professional life. But then at some point he mentioned something from his personal life. And I was like, hey, blink, blink, blink. That's again the drama king. You know, he's sneaky bastard. And you are seeing him so well in the professional life, so he started seeping into the personal life because there you're not really attentive to him anymore. And he was like, true, that's exactly what's happening. It's the same pattern, it's just in a different role. So it might be manifesting a little bit differently because I'm a different kind of person, or I show up differently in my personal relationship rather than at work, in my business. So we kind of saw, okay, how does it translate? How does it manifest? We started looking back into his situations before in his previous life, looking for, okay, what are the manifestations of that drama king? How does it show up? What are his patterns of my client in those? But then we applied the same drill. Okay, you know what to do. Once you have identified it, give it a name, and then do this X, Y, and Z. And of course, X, Y, and Z might be different for his relationship with his spouse rather than his relationship with the clients or his team in his business. But it would be the same kind of principles and philosophies. So suddenly, the same pattern manifesting in different areas would be easier to deal with because you know the drill. You know how to identify it, spot it, be aware of it, and then what to do with it and how to get out of the situation in a healthier and quicker way. So those are the things that help a lot as well. When we know that we have this pattern, we are falling into something. For example, you um, you identify that okay, at work you get the idea, you start implementing quickly, and then when you're so close to the finish line, you drop it and you self-sabotage yourself. And of course, there could be a lot of reasons for that. You could be afraid of success. You could feel insecure with the growth, etc. I'm just talking about the real examples of the clients that I had to work with. Also, my own therapy that I've been working through those kind of issues. So that it could be the pattern of yours. Okay, you're getting some close, you work so hard, and then when you see the result on the horizon, you're like, oh, okay, oh, I'll go there and I'll start that new thing. I don't need the results of this thing. Doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever. So figuring out that pattern of yours and then applying or like see that it applies and manifests in different areas of your life. So it could be, for example, that you're pursuing a personal relationship. You want to have a partner and you are on the dating market, you're finding people and or you're chasing someone whom you know at work in a friendship circle, and as soon as they show start interest to you, that you're like la 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 la, and you go the other way. You know, it could be those kind of examples of not crossing the finish line and reaping the harvest and the results of your hard work. So then looking at that pattern, figuring out how to do it, finding an example where you have dealt with it or a role of yours in a context, the environment in which you have dealt with it well, breaking it down like, okay, what happened? What did I do? Why did it work out? And so on. And then creating from that a script for yourself on how to deal with that in a different role, in a different context of your life, etc., can really help a lot. So those were 4 examples. They covered a lot of different scenarios. So I hope you're having all those light bulbs. So like, oh yeah, this was happening for me, or this I could use in that scenario for myself. This skill I can transfer there. So I hope you're having a lot of ideas. The brain is kicking in right now in a good way. And write those down for yourself. Start acting on them because that can really, really, really elevate your perception of your life, how much joy you get of it, and how much easier things get. So I really want to emphasize how important it is to recognize and transfer our skills, our strengths from one role of ours to the other, from one context to the other. Also recognizing our patterns and seeing how the same pattern can manifest in different ways in personal and professional life, and figuring out what is your script, what is your pattern of dealing with that pattern, and using that in different contexts, learning how to translate it from one context to another. It will help you enormously in your life. And sometimes it's difficult, or often it's difficult to do it on your own because we have our blind spots. Some things just feel normal. We don't question them because we've had them for so long. And there, an external person can really help. So whether it's a coach, a mind shifter like me, a therapist, whatever feels more relevant to you, look for that support, seek out some help and use it because that can really help you identify those patterns and go to them. And just want to mention here as well, for example, some of those clients I've been working on for a while, and it's so fantastic to see when they don't notice the pattern sometimes because it's a new environment. And I, from an outside perspective, when they start talking about that situation, can spot it and see, hey, do you see the similarity to this situation you had before or to this pattern of yours? So you see the light bulb coming off there, like, oh yeah, sure. And then they directly know what to do. You don't need to coach them through the process. You just need sometimes to help them, or I need to help them to figure out that this is something they've done before. Been there, done that, and then it's super empowering to know, okay, I know what to do. Let's go. So that is a one thing that I want to uh, as well mention, that seek help in this context to learn your patterns, to understand how to transfer some of your skills and strength from one context to the other. And as I said, I do hope that you already have some gears clicking and rolling there in your head and your mind, what which skills you can apply and transfer, which patterns of yours can be dealt with in different life situations of yours, etc. So I do hope that you start implementing that. You use those insights for yourself, for the good of the others around you as well. As I mentioned, the second situation with the conversations with wife. Of course, the wife was happy that her husband was suddenly listening to her more and actually having more constructive dialogue. How do we reach a win-win situation or a solution here? So whenever you apply this transfer of skills, not only you win, usually because it's more joyful and easier for you to live your life, but also the people around you are more joyful and find it easier to collaborate and not get stuck in some unhealthy communication patterns, etc. So start implementing. Tell me if you're open to that, what is your pattern, how it goes, etc. If it's easy to spot, I'm more than happy to just suggest you in a message or email replying to you what I see and what you could do. But otherwise, of course, I'm more than happy to take you on as a client and work on that if that's what you want, more continuous conversation and support. And I do have some space for from January on. So reach out if you do want support later on. And until then, I just want to remind you that, as always, I see you, I feel you, I love you, and I do believe that you can truly enjoy your life and make it easier. And first and foremost, don't make it hard for yourself when it's not necessary. With applying this mindset of shifting or transferring our skills and strength and mindset patterns from one area of our life to the others. So go implement it, play around with it, and take care of yourself, and talk to you next week.